All right, Brooklyn came into Friday, one game behind Philly for top spot in the East, so they were looking to keep pace. They were taking on the Hornets. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving active. James Harden was not. Midway through the second, Nets down one. Irving off the screen, hits the open three, giving the Nets the 2-point lead. 2 minutes later, Irving to Durant. Looking good. Nets up 6. Under 2 minutes left in the half, Terry Rozier. How about this? Guy's in there. Hammers it down big time. Get out the way. This is how it sounded.
All right, Hornets looking for momentum here. Final 2 minutes of our... Oh, Terry! How do you do?
You want momentum, you get momentum like that. Hornets down 2 at that point. Then it's Kyrie doing his thing. Man, makes it look so easy sometimes. That is incredible. 12 points, his second fewest as a member of the Nets, but they were getting plenty of offense in this one. Miles Bridges has had himself a season. 6 made 3 of the game. Usually it's the dunks we're showing on SportsCenter, but there's a dunk.
There's a dunk.
There you go.
You spoke it into existence.
33 for him in this game. Hornets still trailing by 5 through 3, though. Then it's Joe Harris doing Joe Harris things. 3 and the foul. Next Nets possession, it's Harris again. I mean, when these guys are all together and healthy, they all finally playing, my goodness, this team is going to be scary. They're already kind of scary. KD is looking real nice. 25 points, 11 assists, Nets scoring 130 points for the 11th time this season. That's the most in the NBA. They win this one by 15 points.
Obviously, Brooklyn has a lot of talent. But at the end of the day, there's only one ball. You got to play defense, too. So,
did KD and Kyrie respond to Simmons for that comment tonight?
Well, number one, they should respond like they customarily do to anybody else. They should drop buckets. This is what they do. KD, when healthy, is averaging 30 a game. Kyrie, averaging 28 a game. I mean, we know what kind of showstoppers they are and what they bring to the table offensively. But I tell you, if they really, really want to get back at Ben Simmons, you know what you do? You back the hell up off of him and dare him to shoot jump shots. That's how you could really, really get back at him, to be quite honest with you, because that's the only weakness that I see Ben Simmons has in this game. I think that this dude is a jump shot away from being LeBron James 2.0. I just think he's that lethal. His passing ability, his basketball IQ, his ball handling ability, his rebounding ability, and I think that he is a large candidate, a top 2 candidate for NBA Defensive Player of the Year. I just think that Ben Simmons is that elite defensively. So listen, I don't think that, he's believing in himself and his teammates and giving Philadelphians an opportunity to really, really look at the 76ers and say they got a chance against this team. They can do some things against this Brooklyn Nets team. So I don't think that, Ben Simmons was being grotesquely disrespectful or anything like that. He's believing in himself and his teammates. But this is basketball. And basketball, even though it's a team sport, you do find yourself in situations where you have one-on-one encounters potentially. So there may be times when Kyrie is face-to-face against Ben Simmons and he can handle that. There may be times when KD is face-to-face directly one-up against Ben Simmons and they can handle their business in that regard, and it would be entertaining. But ultimately, how do you get back at Ben Simmons for saying what he said? 2 points. You drop buckets. And then when he has the ball, you back up 10 feet away from him and dare him to shoot a jump shot, because that's not what he does. And that's the difference between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets as far as I'm concerned.
Look, to me, I think you're right about that, Stephen A., but to me, the question is about Philadelphia. And pardon my voice, I got the Pfizer shot a couple days ago, and the side effect for me somehow is I lost my voice, Stephen A., but it's coming back. To me, the issue is the pressure is on Philadelphia. It's on Ben Simmons and the 76ers. Remember, before the Nets got James Harden, I wasn't picking him to come out of the East, but I did say this. When I saw Kevin Durant, the way he came back from the Achilles when he was playing early in the season, I thought the Sixers really need Ben Simmons to be the best version of himself on defense, because there's no stopping Kevin Durant. But the best defensive matchup in the world is Ben Simmons. That's as good as you can do. You can't do any better than that. And by the way, I think he is the defensive player of the year. I don't think anyone else is really in the conversation, to be honest. Maybe Embiid was before he got hurt. Look, The reason the pressure is on Philadelphia right now is because the Nets don't have James Harden, because the Nets are playing the second of back-to-back on the road, because the Sixers are supposed to win this game. If you're fully loaded, you got Embiid and he's balling, you got Simmons, you got your whole crew with you, and the other team, the main challenge in the East, along with the Bucks, doesn't have the guy I keep saying is the most important player on the team. James Harden rolled out of bed, showed up in Brooklyn looking a hot mess, and was a walking triple-double with 30 points in wins. When he's not on the team, they are not the same team. So no James Harden, second of back-to-back on the road, and you're talking, Stephen A., Simmons especially, but the Sixers got to show up and win.
Well, for me personally, number one, I think you're wrong about there not being anybody else in the conversation. I'd put Ben Simmons one myself as Defensive Player of the Year, but I'd throw Draymond Green and Rudy Gobert in there. When you look at the Utah Jazz and the way they've played defense, and they've been top 5 all season long, I got to give Rudy Gobert credit because you don't get much on the interior going up against the Utah Jazz. And in the case of Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors, even though they're 2 games under 500, they're 4th defensively in terms of what they allow from 2-point range. And you know that has a lot to do with Draymond Green because he's consistently going up against, he's consistently defending against guys that are bigger than him. So he's undersized at that forward spot, but yet he does what he does. So I definitely think he's a candidate as well. Having said that, getting back to Ben Simmons, I think when you look at Ben Simmons, this is a guy, and I got an interesting stat for you. Max, do you know he's averaging over 10 shots a game this year? Do you know this is his 4th year in the league, and he went from 12.3 to 12.2 to 11 point something last year, like 11.3, and now he's down to 10. We talk about this guy and his star potential. He's actually shooting the ball less each year than he did the year before. And that's by and large because of A, the pieces that are around him, but B, more importantly, because he's not a threat from the perimeter. This guy, if Ben Simmons, who we all love and we all think is terrific, wants to be a true superstar, which he has the potential to be, you have got to get a perimeter shot. And I would just say this, as elite as he is defensively, and I respect where the hell he's coming from, he does not have any business talking about how there's just one basketball and somebody's got to play defense when, guess what? The Brooklyn Nets are the one team in the NBA that can give up 120 points a night and still win basketball games on a regular because that's how lethal they are offensively. And when you are so limited in terms of your perimeter shooting ability, because that's the only thing that I think he's limited in, how are you going to talk about these two snipers and Kyrie and Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets? That's just not wise. And knowing that James Harden eventually is coming back, I just don't think that. I mean, if you're the Brooklyn Nets and you don't have KD and you don't have James Harden, and still in all with Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris and guys like that. Not to say Kyrie is in that category because he's in the category of James Harden and KD, but you get what I'm saying. The fact that the Sixers needed to pull Joel Embiid off the bench because they surrendered a 21-2 run to let Brooklyn back into the game, I think that is a bad sign. I'd also like for the record to show that the Philadelphia crowd, remember, I worked in Philadelphia for 17 years as a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer and ultimately a columnist the last 10 years or so of my career there. I have to tell you something. It is a huge mistake. As knowledgeable as Sixers fans are, it is a huge mistake for them to be chanting that KD, sucks. That's what they said. KD, that's what they said about Kevin Durant. He was on the sideline looking at them like, what the hell are they talking about me for? You're going to rue the day you do that because we can say a lot of things about Kevin Durant. The one thing we cannot say is that this brother can't ball. We certainly can't say that. This dude is one of the top 2 players on the planet Earth when he is healthy. There's no doubt in my mind. And for the Philadelphia 76ers to know that the likelihood is that you're going to have to go up against that brother, and for the fans to be chanting at him that way, that's not going to bode well for them either. There's a price that's going to be paid for that. And I think the combination of those two things, as far as I'm concerned, left the night, for me, not that great for the Philadelphia 76ers, despite the win. I think that two messages were sent. I mean, one to KD that they're going to pay for, and the other was the fact that without KD and James Harden, they still almost came back and beat the 76ers. I think it's something that works against the 76ers on this particular day.
I'm not disappointed by the 76ers. I'm going to get to your points in a second, Stephen A. I got things to say about that, but I'm not just, listen, they were controlling the whole game between like 8-ish and 14-ish points most of the time, right? Like that's basically what happened. And they know they're playing a team who's playing a second of back-to-back. And they knew coming in, no James Harden, and then come to find no Kevin Durant. And they're controlling the game. And as you said, Embiid's on the bench. And, you know, and then, by the way, Kyrie comes out of the game. The game's over, right? This is human nature. This happens in basketball. They took their foot off the gas. They figured the game's over. And then all of a sudden, whoa, game's not over. And then the game was over. Then they're like, oh, okay, let's put this, you know, got within 3 points. Then, okay, let's put this away. And they did. You never got the sense that they were going to lose the game. Now, Kyrie didn't come back in the game. Had Kyrie come back in, maybe they win. But it did not escape my attention that Philly was controlling the game with Kyrie in. They made the run without Kyrie. And as spectacular as Kyrie has been this year, I think if Brooklyn would have had James Harden, maybe it's a little different. Like, let's get rid of this idea that the Sixers have any chance to beat a fully healthy Brooklyn team. They don't. They have no shot to do it. No one does. If this team is fully healthy, no one's got a shot to win. So it's not like, well, because the Sixers struggled down the stretch with Brooklyn, then in the moment of truth, if Brooklyn's healthy, maybe the Sixers won't be able to beat them. We already know they won't be able to beat them if Brooklyn's healthy. By the way, apologies to Embiid, because Brooklyn has no answer for him. He's going to get his, but that's one guy on that level. And Ben Simmons almost, they got 3 dudes like that. Now to KD. Stephen A., you think that had Philadelphia been chanting, KD is great, he wouldn't be giving them the business later on in the playoffs? KD is going to get his regardless if they say he stinks, if he's awesome, whatever it is. Let the fans chant what they want. I love it. And of course, boo and insult the visiting star. What's wrong with that? That's like, that happens all the time.
Well, there's a lot, there's a lot of things that you don't get about basketball. So I don't mind teaching you and giving you lessons. Like, for example, when you bring up KD and you say, what's different than he's going to do? What's different? So what? What if they chanting KD's great, KD's great? He's still going to give them the business. Remember one of the things that we continuously bring up about KD, what he could do if he wanted to, but what he chooses not to do. One of the things about Kevin Durant is that he's not only phenomenal as a basketball player, it's because of his efficiency. You know, this is a dude that doesn't just drop 30, but it's on better than 50% shooting. It's on better than 40% shooting from three-point range. Well, what if he got aggressive? What if they sat up there and he said, I'm rolling into Philadelphia. I remember what they were saying about me. Instead of shooting 20 shots, let me shoot 30. You understand? Instead of distributing the basketball and playing the right way, let me remind them of who the hell I am. I'm just saying, no matter what we see from him, with Kyrie, that's different. He's a killer. With James Harden, particularly the James Harden that was the league scoring champion over the last 3 years, that's different. But with KD, one of the things that we don't always get is a level of aggression and assertiveness. Yes, he plays the right way. Yes, he's unselfish. Yes, he's efficient. But we don't see him ultra aggressive. So the point is that if you tinker on getting him to be more aggressive and really to be assertive and come at you, it could be nightmarish in a lot more ways than we haven't even seen yet. That's all I mean by that.
Well, I mean, okay, but that's one dude. Those points count the same if the ball's distributed or if one dude is getting those points. And speaking of that, my big takeaway out of this game is this, Stephen A. Kyrie Irving, I think, has to show at some point that when he's the only one of the big three there, the team functions better with him on the floor than with him off the floor. Stephen A., I'm not saying that definitively last night shows they're better without him. No, of course not. Because as I said, it's human nature. The Sixers are controlling the whole game. Oh, now Kyrie is out too. We got this. And everyone else on the Nets fought hard. Good for them, especially on the second of back-to-back on the road. Good for them. But still, it's happened too many times in Kyrie's career when he is the solo star, because he's an amazing player. The team too often functions better with him off the floor. It should never be that way. I got the distinct impression last night that if it were James Harden on the Nets and the Sixers were playing like that, the Nets might have won that game if it was Harden. Harden's not more talented